more people are willing to say they have anxiety than depression. There's something about saying I'm depressed that feels just as heavy as depression probably is, right? And but to say I have anxiety can mean lots of things. I have anxiety about COVID, or I have anxiety about my kids integrating into school, or I have crippling anxiety. Like it can mean all kinds of things. And so I think number one, people are more willing to say I'm anxious or embrace that we have anxiety than depression. And so that's something for us to work on, right? That both should not be shamed, and both of them, and also understanding that depression and anxiety can look the same. You can be depressed and it express itself as anxiety. You can have anxiety and it's actually depression. It's just manifested as anxiety. And so they kind of are interconnected. And so, without getting into like all the details of breaking those down from a clinical perspective, I think it has more to do with, us being able to recognize that I think it's very possible, if I just talk about this year alone and what everybody has gone through this year, I think I can equally say that we have definitely had waves of depression, each of us, every single one of us, of everything from anxiety about what it means to go into lockdown, and then depression when you're 2 weeks later still in lockdown. And what does this mean with my life when I'm not getting to do the things that bring me joy? And then you have anxiety of what does it mean to wear a mask? And then depression of like, I don't know if I can keep wearing this mask and living like this anymore. Like you can see the waves of it just kind of circulating through our year. We're an EFMP family. We had to be so much more conservative than maybe the average citizen. And so being on lockdown for our family for that long, removing all of these things that would normally bring us growth and joy and the good endorphins and just all of that, of course, we're going to have just a baseline probably of depression. And I even said to my kids, even this morning, I said, now that we are vaccinated and having gone through COVID ourselves, I don't know if we can be more immune than this. And we're still going to follow all of those precautions. But I think that there is a level of living that we don't even know just how poorly we might actually be doing. Like, I think that when you're in survival mode, you kind of just, it's survival mode is kind of like going into deployment mode. You just kind of accept that this is what it is and I don't have control. And so I'm just going to do the best with what I have. Whether you're a deployed service member or whether you're going through a deployment at home, we just kind of just accept a baseline of whatever. And I think we've gone through almost a year-long deployment. And some of you listening are still also going through deployment on top of that. And so sometimes you don't know that you're not doing well until you get out and you experience some things. And so I'm encouraging some of you to find safe ways to go on an adventure. Find a safe way to travel just outside the radius that maybe you've traveled in the last year, if you can, if you have the ability to do that. Or find some safe ways to get re-involved in your community. Because I think you're going to find you're going to have a really great like dumping of that serotonin and endorphins of just spending time in community, laughing again. And you're going to walk away going, man, I haven't laughed in a really long time. I didn't know I need that. Or seeing outside of your town and going, I just didn't even realize there was life still happening outside of this town. I didn't know that I was like depressed and anxious until I was able to get out and breathe a little bit. This lifestyle creates an immense amount of anxiety on top of COVID and on top of what everybody else is experiencing. Whether you are anxious about constant orders coming, whether it's where are we going to go next, or when is the deployment happening, or when's your next training, or when are you going out in the field, or when are you getting on the ship next, or whatever, that kind of constant uncertainty keeps us at a baseline of anxiety that becomes our normal. And that's not normal, right? It's normal for us, but it's not good. And so we need to accept the fact that if this is creating a constant source of anxiety in our life, we are going to find ourselves in constant burnout, constant anxiety, or constant exhaustion, but that leans towards resentment. And that's the number one issue I'm asked to speak on for all of the webinars, all of the talks, all of the events that I'm brought in to do. The trend for this year is, can you come talk to our spouses about resentment? and what we do with that, because that's the underlying topic nobody wants to talk about because we don't know where to put it. We can't be angry at the military because that's no good. We can't dump it on our spouse. That's not going to be good for our relationship. We're trying to not leak it out on our kids. We try to talk to our friends about it, but then we get asked to repress it, don't talk about it. It's like, just get over it, right? Or at least we're afraid that's what's going to happen if we talk about it. And so where do we put it? We just store it up, and it turns into resentment. And so the number one issue we have right now is that our spouses are exhausted and angry, and they don't know where to put it. And so my answer to that is, you cannot live at this constant state of anxiety without it causing some consequence in your life. And so we've got to start again, getting back to healthy conversations, appropriate decompression of getting some of that energy out, and then bringing some of that life back into our life, where we can decompress and let out some of that physical energy. You may not have the energy to go for a run. If you do, please go do it. Get outside, move your body. It will help. But if you don't have that energy, there's these other things that you can do that it can be wonderful outlets to get some of that anxiety out.